ask yourself, if we'd learned on November 22nd, 1963, that the premier of Russia had been shot from a Moscow office building by a lonely capitalist sympathizer who himself was then liquidated by a patriotic Muscovite within 48 hours while surrounded by armed police, I think it would be pretty apparent to any free-thinking person that a coup d'etat and a transfer of power had just taken place in the Soviet Union. And we would not be asking questions or attacking Jim Garrison or his record. We would, in a free-thinking society, be asking hard questions about why he was killed and what forces were opposed to him. But ask yourself, if we'd learned on November 22nd, 1960...
Well, it's good to be back.
It's great to be back, and it's Shabbat too.
Is that the date?
5994, yes it is. That's January 25th, 2012.
Well, look at these guys behind us.
Oh, you mean the crown heads of Europe?
Yes, there they are.
Past, present, and future?
Yes, yes.
Wow. I'm sitting right there with them.
We're sitting with them.
Queen.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. There, you can see Her Majesty's right here, right there.
And the page boys are at the end there?
Yeah, the little
wow,
boys.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are the ruling elite.
Why did we put that one up? Last month we had
the handwriting is on the wall?
Yeah, not Nebuchadnezzar's, Belshazzar's feast.
Yes, that was the dream that Daniel was able to translate for the king.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this month we've got the crowned heads of Europe behind us, which is apt because they're right at the center of a lot of the current events and news that are going on, and that has been going on.
Do you want to be uncut, uncensored, and uncouth?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, let's do that. Let's change our names. I want to bear my mind. I want to be a cosmic cowboy, and I want to ride the bull, Lenny.
Okay, very good. So people listening should tune in and go to bloomandsteele.com and click on the, go to the Shock Talk and click on the photos, right?
It's January 2012, Tumult and Trauma, and that's what we're all about right now. It's the Tumult and Trauma News, Lenny.
Yeah, Tumult and Trauma News. So let's start off with, what's that very first slide? Wow, it looks wicked.
Wow, yeah. Ooh.
That's Pope Benedict.
Oh, you know what? What did it talk about? The angel of light? Is that sort of what he looks like there?
Yeah, Satan comes as an angel of light.
He's... wow. Look at him there. I don't know, but what's that thing behind him, Lenny?
Yeah, that's that sculpture you can see it. Actually, our picture number 3 has got the whole thing. It's the resurrection. It's called the resurrection, but it's really, really ugly. It's more than eerie. What would be the proper word? It's not eerie.
Can we use the word grotesque? How about grotesque? I think it's kind of ill. And it's the creator, Pericles, what's his name? Fazzini?
Uh-huh.
He said that it's actually Jesus rising from the crater of a nuclear bomb.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it looks like he sort of was in the nuclear bomb.
Once again, everything that the popish persons do to try and make themselves look like they're the good guys, in it you can see they're really the evil bad guys. Look at that sculpture.
They're the evil kooks and the evil realists, but
yes.
Okay, we should forget that evil is being exposed. The light is shining on evil. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
So you wanted to talk about the recapitulation of the polyantics of prophecy. Can you give me some points, Lenny?
Yeah, the polyantics of prophecy are... you've got them down there.
Well,
first of all, they've got to create a war.
Okay.
In order for a man of peace to come and make peace to the world, you really have to scare the world and bring them to the brink of world war, and probably beyond the brink of world war, just hanging by a thread, and pull them up out of it at the last moment and bring peace. So that's the first part. The first stage of the polyantics is create the war in order to offer the peace.
So we have some more slides, and there's one about your next Iran. I'm not sure what number that is, and then
Which was that?
it's right after Gutenberg. So that's one too.
Oh, you want to go to?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to go to that
we
one
can
now?
be wherever, but I think what you're saying is that they've got to get the Goldstein right. They've got to get the bad guy. So who's the bad guy now? Is it Iran?
Well, let's just
I
go
mean, is
through
that who
quickly
they wanna fight with?
Let's just go through quickly the polyantics, because
Okay.
we know that a man of peace, the Antichrist, is due.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, in order to bring peace and create a 7-year peace pact, as prophecy strikes midnight,
Right.
it always strikes midnight. It's taking place right to the nanosecond. And in order to bring forth a man who appears to the world as a man of peace, we have to go into a very serious time of world war, which we can see is gathering all around us.
So they're
Iran is only
fomenting a
little,
war, would you say?
a world war.
Yeah. So what happens after that?
After the man of peace arrives, he is then crowned emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, in which is a world government, and he then claims to be the Caesar. He claims divinity, and he's assassinated with a head wound by a sword. Correct? It's a sword, as the scripture says. And then he is brought back to life. He brings himself back to life and claims to be God, and uses the fact that he's come back to life as proof. Then, of course, he creates and makes an image of himself, and breathes life into the image, and it becomes alive. In other words, Lucifer wants to try and do what the Logos did in the book of Genesis, and by copying that, he wants to prove to all human beings that he really is the Savior. Of course, he will be the Antichrist.
So what you're saying is that Lucifer is a copycat. He likes to
Copycat, just
counterfeit
like
everything and trick people?
Like the Logos made an image of himself and breathed into the
So
nostrils,
is
and
he
it
going to
became
fool a lot
Adam.
of people? He's going to fool
He's
a
going to
lot
fool
of
the
people.
whole
like
world.
The whole world. So
You go to number 2.
number
You've got
2
it
is
there.
the mortal wound is healed.
Yeah,
Now
what-
that was in Rome, June the 7th, 1929.
Right, and that was the mortal wound
11
of the
o'clock in the morning.
That was the healing of the organization.
Yes.
And it works on multiple levels, right? There's the healing of the organization, and then there's the healing of the man
Of the
himself.
wound, of the one that gets
Right. The beast refers
killed,
to
right,
both
with the mortal wound to the
the
head, right?
empire,
Yeah.
and the beast refers to the man.
So
it's
that
dual.
happened.
It's dual.
So at 11 o'clock in the morning, Premier Mussolini exchanged with Cardinal Gaspari, the papal secretary of state, representing Pope Pius the 11th, ratifications of the treaty signed at the Lateran Palace on February 11th. So by that simple act, the sovereign independent state of Vatican City came into existence.
Right.
And that
right.
was out of the New York Times, July 7th, 1929. So the mortal wound, as you said, on multiple levels was healed. There it is. So they've been around for a while. They're being resurrected.
Okay, so let's now go. People can go more into that. You can see on photo 11 we have Daniel's 70th week, which shows the 69 weeks. Then the Messiah, the Prince, is cut off in Passover 33 A.D. And then you have the 70th week starts with the peace agreement to rebuild the temple, a 7-year peace agreement, and we're in that gap
So
between
you're
that
talking.
area.
That's part of the polyantics of prophecy, right? I mean, that's
Right.
all part of the
Yeah.
what you were just talking about. So Do you want to go back to picture number? We just did the one about
we've
that.
done 1, 2, and
that
really 3 is again the
sculpture.
statue.
But you know, we're always talking about the beast or the Antichrist and who is the Antichrist, and I think a lot of people are wondering who he is and what he'll be like and when he arrives.
Yeah, then
And
photo number 4, of course,
who
is
is
from Eric Phelps' Conspiracy Convention presentation, and it's a really good one because it talks about Revelation 13:12 and talks about the first beast whose deadly wound was healed is a man who will literally rule the world for 42 months. And that uses Revelation 13:5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue for 42 months. Now, what's interesting is Leviticus 26 it talks about our time today when it says, I will even appoint terror over you, wasting disease, which is cancer, etc., and fever, which shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart. So we've got the terror, where terror has been appointed. We've got the wasting disease, fever, which shall consume the eyes. There's
There's an interesting
interesting
disease.
prophecy that really hasn't yet shown up. So we
a
should
different type
keep
of
an
a
eye, and
disease.
no pun intended, we should keep our eye out for that.
It's kind of frightening, actually.
The eye. So
Do you
yeah.
remember that the chief exorcist was talking about the devil living in the Vatican? He
Yes.
said that he lives. Well, there are these rooms under the Vatican where there are depictions of ancient gods and old Babylonian mystery religion figures and paintings. Well, one of the rooms has a picture of Lucifer. That is light bearer, the morning star.
This
And
is
that's
photo
in a room,
5,
yeah,
and
under the
just tell
Vatican.
everybody that's 5, and then you've got 6 is the article from the
The article.
Telegraph on the
And then 7 shows it again. So, you know what?
so what we're looking
He actually does live there, and he's got his picture on the wall.
right.
There he is. He's actually there.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to photo. So we're at photo 8 now, right?
Well, you know, you've got Lucifer's 5 wicked desires. We touched upon that on
Yes.
the last show.
Last show.
And it's just that, you know, it sort of goes together with the Antichrist coming, because here it shows that this is what he wants. He wants to be like the most powerful. He wants to be like God.
Yeah.
So
And that's
those
where
are
the
his desires, right?
where
And
the Pentagon comes from. He's using
know,
the 5 points, and
Yes, the
Yeah.
pentagram, the pentagon.
yeah.
And the pentagon is like a stargate, isn't it?
Yeah.
The shape of it.
Yeah.
And it's the same idea, isn't it?
yeah. So I mean, and the pentagram. There's a lot of maps of Washington D.C. where if you link together the different sites, so what he's done is he's built these sites around the world. The God of this world has built it so that in these major capitals like Washington,
With the
or like,
obelisks.
pardon me.
They all have obelisks, like
Right.
the Egyptian obelisks.
He's used
too,
the
yeah.
pentagram, which is his 5 desires, right?
So, you know, you've got the next one, which is number 9. The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. Do you have a
1
little...
John 5:19.
I know. You
yeah.
know, Len, we were watching this movie called They Live. And it
Yes.
sort of exposes what's really happening.
Yeah. Can we-
It shows us what the media does to people
yeah.
and
can
what's
we
really happening
tee that
behind
up,
the scenes, you know, with the alien invasion and all that stuff.
Randy, and
Let's go for
it's-
that.
and play that little piece from a movie They Live.
They
It came out
Live.
in the 80s.
80s, yeah.
And it was with Roddy Piper, the
Yeah.
wrestler. It's a great movie.
Oh, I just love that
And
movie.
basically he finds these sunglasses that when he puts them on, he sees those who had been intermingled with the seeds of men, the demons.
Yeah.
Which ones were born of the demons?
Yeah.
And that's something that we should say. Scripture points out that at the end time there'll be, quote, intermingle with the
Intermingling.
seeds of men.
Wow.
The demons will be.
Now, did that happen in the times of Noah, just before the flood?
Well, it
I
did,
think
but
just before the floods, they were intermingling.
yeah,
So
and
they're doing it again.
Again, so a lot of
Okay.
the people we see on our TV screen are really the
Shapeshifters?
Rosemary's Babies.
Yes. Now that's another good movie to see.
Yeah, people who haven't seen Rosemary Baby with Mia Farrow, it's about how she has a child with a demon.
Well, actually, with Satan.
With Satan.
That's what Rosemary's Baby is. So, can we see They Live?
So,
that's a great movie.
Can we play that?
Yeah, let's see
cut
They
from
Live.
They Live?
Certainly you can.
Okay. Okay. He puts on his glasses and he sees all these subliminal messages. Then he takes it off and he sees it's a normal sign. He puts his glasses on again. Oh, look. Obey, consume, all the different. Now he's walking around. And buy, look at all those subliminal messages. Watch TV. No thought. And stay asleep. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, sleep. That's his idea of calm word. Obey, stay asleep, obey. He's looking at magazines with the glasses on. When he takes the glasses off, watch TV, no man watch. Now he takes the glasses off, and it's, just an ordinary USA Today magazine. U.S. World Report, USA.
Uh-oh. Guess who that
Yes. Now, he looks at this guy,
What's
and
your
he
problem?
sees, there he is. He's,
Is that an alien or is that
No.
a demon?
it's neither. It's a child of a
It's
demon.
an
Dad, what's your
intermingled.
problem?
It's an intermingler.
Intermingler.
It's an intermingler.
It's not a clone.
No, it's not a
No.
clone. No, it's an intermingler. A human mother and a demon father.
Wow.
Oh, look, and he starts to realize that the guy can see through his mask
Yep.
and see that he's really not
Here you are, sir.
all human,
Thank you.
100%.
Oh, wow.
Oh, now he puts the glasses on. Look at that.
Oh,
Now he takes the glasses off.
Lenny, I think it's an alien.
No, well, it's not really an alien. It's just a Rosemary's
buddy.
baby.
Okay.
They're all the children of Rosemary,
Yeah, they're Rosemary's babies.
right?
Yeah.
Now look, what's it say? He puts the money. It says, what did it say?
think it's-
Money is your god. Is that
Yeah,
the
money
end?
is the
Yeah,
god.
money.
Money is,
yeah.
is your god.
Money is your god. It
And that's
stopped
what
rather.
you could see on
But
the-
people should get the movie They Live.
But you can get it right on YouTube in 5 parts or 5 or 6 parts.
Yeah,
actually. You
yeah.
can watch it that
It's
way.
a great movie that
can-
shows exactly the intermingling with the sons of men that's been done by the
or
demons.
BitTorrents. ISO Hunt
Yeah,
BitTorrent, right?
BitTorrents, exactly.
Yeah, you can download that and watch it.
Okay, so that's photo 9. Photo 10 are the troubling signs in the Middle East. And
Well, you know, Turkey has a pretty big part in this, doesn't it? They've got a huge army now. And of course, look at the strategic position of Iran with the Straits of Hormuz right there, and Iraq, Syria. So, I mean, first of all, Iran is Shiite too, right?
right.
Popish persons do not like the Shiite. They only have 15% of the Muslim population is Shiite.
Right.
The rest are Sunni, which is 85%. So they're outnumbered because their leader claims divinity, right, Lenny?
Exactly. And now, is this a good time? Should we go through, just rattle off the 14 signs
Well,
that will come about announcing
You do one and I'll
Christ's
do one.
return? All right. Well, you start off. Here are the 14 signs announcing Christ's return.
wars, violence,
Laws.
lawlessness. Does it look like we've got a lot of that now?
Yeah, that's number 2 is drought and famine.
Earthquakes and other catastrophes.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of those, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people have forgotten about Fukushima. Think about it, it's worse than Chernobyl. What are the effects of the radiation from Fukushima?
Oh,
I mean, that's going to go on into the... I mean, how many years is that going to hang around?
yeah. I mean,
Everything's polluted. Would you go to Japan for a visit?
No, I would not. Disease epidemics, number 4.
Well, they're also giving it to us in the vaccines.
And this is number 5 is what sort of goes with this photo. The rise of an aggressive fundamentalist Islamic power.
Now, is that going to be the King of the South?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got to look out for
Daniel
a major
11:40.
power and the King of the South rising.
Right.
So you've got number 6. The ascendant European Union seeks global primacy. I think that's happening right now. Definitely.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, look at the rise of Germany. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk? Okay, that's number
You're at
6.
number 7, right?
Yeah, number 7. Number 7 is a powerful religious figure leads a religious revival. So that's Revelation 19:19.
Number 8 is a great false religious leader. Is that Petrus
No.
Romanus? Is he going to have anything to do with that? Petrus Romanus. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I mean, he's gonna have-
that's right. That's the last pope.
Yeah, that's what he's supposed to be, Peter.
Yep.
Something, Petrus or whatever.
Yeah. Number 8.
I-
Number 8.
Oh, I did 7. You're doing 8.
Okay, the gospel of the kingdom of God preached to all nations. Now that hasn't yet happened. It's North Korea hasn't been
And there's one
reached.
other little tiny island somewhere.
Somewhere in the Pacific.
But all of North Korea has not.
Not been
Heard the
witnessed. No,
at
no. Number 9 is the Inquisition, right? Faith again
Oh,
becomes
there's going to be a life and
a
death.
matter of life or death.
And it
Isn't
is
that the
happening around.
Inquisition?
Well, it is happening now. People are dying for their faith around the world, being imprisoned and murdered.
right.
Yeah.
Right. 10, a crisis strikes Jerusalem.
What do you think will happen? Will they?
Well, Jerusalem
up
will be
the dome up?
surrounded with armies, as it says, right? But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that the desolation is near. Luke 21:20.
Okay, so that's when they come in and stop the sacrifices, right?
Right. That's right. They at the beginning of the peace treaty, the 7-year peace treaty, they allow the sacrificing of the altars on
Which
the altar.
will be the red heifer, right?
The red heifer,
Yeah.
right? And after 3.5 years, that is ended, and that's the abomination of desolation. The Antichrist comes into the temple and he doesn't so much. He just creates an abomination. Maybe he roasts a pig on it, or
So
that's
we've
what
got
that's what Antiochus
The
did.
collapse of English-speaking nations, and that's called the Great Tribulation, which is the Great Tribalization, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we can see that certainly coming about now. I think they're going to be, we talked about them being taken into slavery to Goshen, right, with high techno taskmasters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can really see it happening. And, there's a certain, so what happens if the Electric Euphrates is diverted? The armies can just march in.
Yeah.
Just come in and take over. And if the San Andreas fault line and what's the other one?
The New Madrid. You
The
mean?
New Madrid, if they are somehow, if you have a tectonic, the warfare attack on these fault lines,
Right.
that would be a huge catastrophe. Or the caldera. If they throw a nuke in there, it would be a huge disaster.
I think
And
what
the
we're
armies
looking
could
at
just
is
march
we're
in.
looking at Lake Ontario and Lake Erie becoming saltwater lakes, having sharks in them.
Wow.
And flowing down to the Gulf via the Mediterranean. So with not too major, not a minor, but a good size earthquake, you'll then reverse Niagara Falls, and Niagara Falls will flow the opposite way. And
Wow, that would be different. Sharks in Lake Ontario?
sharks
Wow.
in Lake Ontario.
So where would
because
we get our
the
water?
salt water.
Wow, that would
that's
be
right.
interesting.
Well, that's right. The Great Lakes, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, could easily become saltwater lakes, and that would mean that they would have to look elsewhere for fresh water.
So there was
So
we were going to
this
talk.
year is going to be the year of the earthquake, not the year of the end. Not, by the way, they've already mentioned that the Mayan calendar thing. It's not the end of the Mayan
No.
calendar. That's all a big satanic hoax.
Of course, it's a hoax. There
It's
it
another
is.
big
It's sort of
hoax.
like the Celestine prophecy.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of all that stuff, like mumbo jumbo? Ooh,
Yeah, like
scare
Y2K.
everybody. We got to go
Like
find what it
Y2K.
is, or, if you read, there's a lot of good stuff in the Dan Brown books, though. The Da Vinci Code and
Right.
Angels and Demons. I mean, you have to sort of go in there and pick the stuff out that you that is interesting, that's relevant, because they divert too. They sidetrack. So we were going to talk about the Costa Concordia. What was that all about? What was that really about, Lenny?
Well,
Got to talk about that, because it's not what people think it is. It's a warning, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, behind the scenes, what's being said is that, first of all, once again, the story that's being told to the public doesn't fit. You cannot just sink a ship by running it into a rock. They say it got run into a rock and filled up with water and teetered over, right? And these ships are built tremendously powerfully strong with compartments. And if you hit a rock, you start to immediately, with emergencies, the doors close throughout the whole ship, and you isolate the part of the ship that fills up with water that's where the hull's been damaged.
Mm-hmm.
But a ship like this would never have actually listed over because of hitting a rock. So once again, the real story is that it looks to me like there's a couple of scenarios here. I mean, we know that the different factions between the kings of the earth and the nations are playing chess, and this is a chessboard move where one side gives a message to the other, back off. And it could be a message just from the Iranians. Remember, we were led to believe there were stories that the Iranians had submarines, and submarines were seen around this ship. So they may very well have just sent the West a message. If you think you're going to start a war in Iran, back off. We're serious. You want to see how serious we are? We're going to torpedo one of your boats. A boat like this, if it suffered a torpedo, that would definitely...
So we're talking about torpedoed off the island of Giglio.
Right.
Right? So it's a little warning. It's a message like... And of course, the ship is owned by an Israeli company, an American company.
Well,
So
yeah.
isn't that kind of obvious that it's a message to Israel and USA?
Yeah.
I mean, I think so.
Yeah, and it's a message that, hey, we're serious about backing off, and to prove we're serious, we're going to hit a ship.
So you did say chessboard moves, and also Goldfinger,
the grand
James Bond,
chessboard, yeah.
Goldfinger. When they painted the girl gold and she died. So it's like saying, look at, you
Yeah,
better
we're
not mess with
serious.
us, right? We're serious.
We're serious.
And that happened with the Lusitania way back May 1st, 1915, and you've got the Titanic. I mean, the Titanic was a little different because they wanted to lure the families that were against the Fed
Right.
into the boat and
Drown
them, basically.
Yeah.
Do
Kill
them in.
Yeah, do them in.
Now, there was one just little coincidence, but on that Costa Concordia, there was a granddaughter of somebody from the Titanic
Yeah.
on that boat. So it's just kind of,
That's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's just coincidence, I guess. So
Okay, next, so where are we now?
I think we're at 15. Now, you can talk about that, because that's about the weapons.
Yeah, that's the
Number 15?
psychotronic. I don't have it, but it's...
Well, here. There you go.
Let me
You
just
see it
get
there?
to it.
There you go. There. You put down that it's a psychoenergetic strike.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be a torpedo. Could it have been one of these weapons that hit the Costa?
Well, originally, it was thought that maybe this is what had happened through the psychoenergetic weapons, they had gotten the captain to maneuver the ship towards. But I think that this was should just be not looked at from the standpoint of the Costa Concordia. This is just more of the psychotronic weaponry that they're using all the time in order to try and play chicken with each other back and forth. You want to go to the next one, Mrs. Steele?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
where
we've
we
got
are.
Iranian nukes.
Oh.
And there we've got a Toronto Star article that we put aside a long time ago. The date on it is May 2010, right? So in May 2010, the Star reported that there's a link between Toronto and the Iranian nukes. And that's really interesting because it shows how the ruling elite control both sides of the equation. They have the thesis, the antithesis, and so they can't lose, and then the synthesis. And so they control it both. Like, for instance, with the election in the United States, I really think it appears that the ruling elite have decided that Obama is doing a pretty good job. He's like a Bush number 3. There's no need to remove him. So in order to get him reelected, they bring forward people in the Republican Party who will drive the electorate to Obama. So it looks to me right now
they're pushing for
we
Obama.
can make an early call on it.
Where's that Rockefeller picture where Obama is swearing the
I don't know. We've got
oath?
it in a previous year, a previous
presidential
folder.
oath? No, I think it's in here somewhere.
Is it in here?
Sure.
Yeah, maybe
And
it
you've
is.
got Rockefeller directly above his hand in the crowd.
Yeah, Rockefeller
So
has
I think they
himself.
want him. They still want him, don't they? Because he's really a noble Moor in service to the Venetian court.
Yeah, he
I
is
mean,
their
come on.
Othello. There's no doubt.
He's working for the popish persons.
Yeah, he's definitely the Othello and taking orders from the Venetian state for sure. And so they're going to drive anybody who voted for Obama last time that's having second doubts because of the economy or whatever, or because he didn't live up to his promises of closing down the torture prison over in where was it, Zabu Grab or never mind the Grab, that they closed
You
down.
mean Gitmo?
Gitmo.
Or the other one was
Gitmo. He says he made a number of campaign promises
Yeah.
that he hasn't lived up to. So anybody who's thinking of switching, they're going to make sure that they bring in such a right-wing character as as leader of the Republican Party, as the nominee for the Republican Party,
we were talking
that they'll
about-
drive everybody to Obama.
So you have these sinister characters, these Yagos in the
Iagos,
background
yeah.
that are leading him by the nose, as asked to be. So he's being led along as the noble Moor, and he's just going along with it.
Yeah,
He's doing their bidding, right?
he's not
Right.
he's not upsetting the ruling elite at all.
So now, you know what?
Now,
The,
photo number what? Let's talk
Well,
about.
number 17 is Karl Theodor zu Guttenberg.
Yes.
He's their cool baron.
Yeah. Why don't you?
I mean, he's a real cool guy. He was a finance minister, and then he was the. Was he also the minister
Defense.
of defense? Right.
Yeah.
He started off as a finance minister, and then he was the minister of defense. But he got in trouble for a plagiarism thing.
Yeah.
And that was. So he's taking his first steps to a political comeback.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and he was going to come and live in the States for a while. But he's going to meet with the Christian Democratic Party, and he wants to participate in the 2013 general election, and that's from Der Spiegel magazine, January 2012. So what do you think all about that?
Well, you know, it's just like it's like we go back to the same thing. New intelligence suggests that Iran could have a nuclear bomb, is what they're saying. Meanwhile, the Star points out that Toronto is connected to the Iranians having a bomb, which is all British intelligence. We know from the past that it's reported by Sherman Skolnick and Tom Hennigan and others as to how it was the Clintons who gave the North Koreans their nuclear material and nuclear through ABB Heavy Machinery Company in Switzerland, of which Mr. Rumsfeld was on the board. So Rumsfeld's on the board of ABB, which gave parts, nuclear parts, bomb parts to North Korea. And meanwhile, on the other hand, he, wearing his other hat, he's the Secretary of Defense, saying that the North Koreans are bad guys because they want a bomb. But meanwhile, he was on the board of the company that gave them the bomb.
See, you know what's happening because so many of the countries have nuclear weapons now. You've got the doomsday clock, 5 minutes to midnight, and that was announced by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists.
Yeah.
And they've moved it to 5 minutes before midnight. We're saying it's striking midnight. But in fact, from 2007 till 2010, it was 6 minutes to midnight. So it's ticking down, Lenny.
Yes.
You know, it's, I think we're, how many minutes closer to the second coming? You know, we're getting closer, so it's ticking.
Yeah.
They're even talking about it ticking down. 'Cause first of all, they can't control the climate change. I mean, there are too many things happening. And also, with the nuclear weapons, so many countries have them now. So we're talking about annihilation, the possibility.
Okay, what's our next photo there?
Well, see, that's the one that says we're on our way. You're next.
Oh, yeah.
There we
next,
go.
Yeah.
And
Oh, there's
see
the
the
picture.
military planes. There he is.
19 is the one of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The
With J.
inauguration.
Rockefeller
There
on
he
the
is.
left side of the picture, over Obama's right shoulder. There's
He's a floating head.
John D. Rockefeller the fourth, a.k.a. J. Rockefeller.
There he is.
He sort of softens his image by calling himself J, but he really is one of the major ruling elite.
So is he the puppeteer? And
he's the godfather
he's the
for
puppet.
the Vatican.
The godfather
For the Vatican
and
in North
and the
America.
puppeteer and the puppet.
Yeah,
there we go.
He's a puppeteer. Obama's the puppet.
And the noble Moor. There we
Yeah.
go. I kind of found this one, photo 20, pretty interesting. It was the U.S. military and CIA interventions since World War II. You know how many there are? Over 50 around the world.
And,
So they certainly love to go
the
and
next
intervene.
photo are the 50, are they?
Well, I mean, you've got them all written there. Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Angola, Australia, Bolivia. It goes on all the way down to Yugoslavia.
Right.
I mean, look, they've been everywhere.
Yeah.
Vietnam, North Vietnam, I mean, Somalia, Slovakia, North Korea, Costa Rica, Cuba.
Right, and real Americans
everywhere.
wouldn't do this. This shows the coup d'etat, the
Exactly.
takeover after 45 by the Bormann Brotherhood, the Nazi International.
So what's one more intervention?
Right.
Let's just add Iran to the list.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, Kuwait, name them all. There's over 50.
Yeah.
What's the
So
next one,
they're getting ready to gear up with a escalate towards World War, which is where we're moving.
You can definitely see it happening.
Yeah. Next photo is The Devil's Double. Great movie, came out in the summer. Showing Saddam had a double, and
That was such
his
a good
kids had a
movie.
double, and Uday had a double. And it's amazing, you know, how Hollywood does leak this information now and then. It's amazing that they're able to get it out.
Well, they're showing us the real stuff behind the scenes. I mean, everything is coming into the light. You know, evil is being exposed. Nobody has anywhere to hide anymore, Lenny.
Yeah.
Look, even the crown heads of Europe, they're behind us right there. Wow, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And they have nowhere to hide. We see them here and there and everywhere, except the ones you mentioned last week. The ones that are sort of the secret, real powers behind the scenes. You don't hear about them.
Now,
The
those
ancient
are like,
bloodline families
yeah.
that you never see or hear about.
yeah, those are the
Black ones
Pope.
with the power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
The
those in line
Farnese.
for the Black Pope.
The Farnese.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, Aldo Brandini and all those other families.
So they've got nowhere to hide.
Yeah. Now, shall we get into this? Is a heavy one now.
Oh, yeah.
Photo
this one.
23.
Yeah.
This is really Eric Phelps's observations. And he says, we can foresee the military society of Jesus warring to accomplish the following during its Third World War. For the greater glory of God, quote, that God who sits in St. Peter's chair. That's the chair of Peter that jets around the world, as McLuhan called it. Number one, war against Shia Iran, led by the Pope's American military-industrial complex.
That's just what we said, eh? That is absolutely right on, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And, of course, we know, and we've said many times before, the reason the Shiite are the enemy of the chair of Peter is the Shiite leader, religious leader, claims divinity, and the Sunni leader does not. So the Shiite leader is the biggest threat to the chair of Peter, who claims divinity, and they won't allow only one person, only one religion can claim that.
Does the Pope say that he is God's emissary on earth, or that he actually comes
Both.
as God? Is
Yeah.
that what he claims? Like,
Yeah.
does he say,
Representative.
I am the representative, but I think on a certain level he feels that he is.
Yes.
That's true, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's the angel of light.
Yeah. Then number two is
false
destruction of Shia Islam, Sunni Islam to be supreme. All Jews will be either killed or driven out of Iran, while every public New Testament Christian church will be closed, as was the case in Shia Iraq. And then number three, the creation of a new Sunni caliphate to be the forerunner of a rebuilt city of Babylon. And of course, that's where you get the rise of the king of the south with the Mahdi.
But he also claims to be divine, doesn't he, the Mahdi?
Yeah,
Does
well,
so what happens? Is there a clash when the two of them
well, sure,
claim
that's what
divinity? Is
created
that why you've
the
got
king of the south
the
pokes
two
at
fighting?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
But I think the king of the north he comes against the king of the south as a whirlwind. So he really has the power. So
Right.
this is just like another crusade. Wouldn't you say we're in like the 11th one? I think so. Or we're heading towards one. Now that slide
Or
that
is
you
it
were talking
12?
about, that's from the Denver airport.
Yes.
And it shows the green soldier with an Islamic scimitar. I guess that's the special knife. It's like a big sword. And communist AK-47 killing the white dove. Okay, now that's symbolic of the Holy Spirit, of
Right.
the Reformation. I mean, the Reformation Church, right?
Right.
Which is the true logos-based church, right?
So that's photo, and you can see that in photo 24, right?
Well, look at the women.
And
the
these
women
are all in the Denver airport.
have all dead babies, you see, and you've
Yeah.
got the little children are all dead in the middle, and he has the sword, and he's killed the dove, and the green soldier is really, he looks almost like he's wearing a Nazi uniform, doesn't he? And he's got that mask and the skull, and everything's destroyed.
By the way, the 13th, we didn't finish. We got to 12.
Oh,
We're coming
sorry.
now. But the 13th is the heavenly signs in the day of the Lord. And for that, for a greater understanding of
What have you
that,
got?
people could go
Which
to
number is
photo
that?
13,
Uh-huh.
which gives the whole blueprint map of the prophecy with the seven seals, the seven trumpets, and the seven plagues. And that's the heavenly signs in the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord and the second coming, beginning with the seventh trumpet. And then 14 is the seven last plagues.
Okay.
And those are the 14 signs announcing the return of Christ. The Word, the Logos, Yahweh, El
So-
Shaddai.
So, right
Which
now,
photo are we at now?
we're experiencing quite a few of these signs right now, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
We have certainly the
Well,
droughts and the earthquakes and changing weather patterns and tsunamis, and then we've got the pestilence.
Yeah, and of course we've got I mean, the statements in the press where the Vatican wants a greater involvement in the Holy Land and wants wants to greater control over
wants the holy sites,
the sacred sites,
including the Wailing Wall, all of them.
Yeah, that way they
now
can.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they want to rebuild the temple, and they want to move the Stone of Scone, obviously, from Scotland through to Jerusalem to the rebuilt temple.
Do you remember the Pope went to England? He went to get the Stone of Scone. We're not sure if he got the real one or if he got the fake one.
Yeah, the fake stone.
Because there is a fake stone, so he probably didn't get the real one, did he?
We don't know.
He wants to get his throne down in Jerusalem.
I think there's still
That's
time
where he wants to
move
jet.
It. Yeah, he's still got time to move it.
But you know what? The harlots with the daughters. I mean,
yeah, the daughters.
He's getting them all together, right?
Yeah.
They're all on the same side. Now, you go back to those Denver pictures, photo 25, it shows a little, I mean, there's different coffins, and they're all different children in them.
Yeah.
But at that airport, there's a little Caucasian girl here, and she's dead in a coffin. And there are several coffins of different backgrounds of children, and they're all dead in these coffins. What does that mean?
It means that World War is coming with mass extinction. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it also means, if you remember, that when the plagues came, if you remember the movie The Periwig Maker, when the plagues come, the poison lies in the air just a foot or two above the ground. So the adults who would walk above it survived longer than the children who were playing right in it.
So you're talking about the actual virus, the plague itself, whatever that was. So it lies very low.
Lies low, about a foot above the ground. And
now the thieves that covered themselves in 6 or 7 essential oils didn't get the plague.
Right.
They warded it off.
Right. Okay, let's. What photo do you want to go to next? Time is moving on. We've got.
Well, you were talking about the sites that
15, 20 minutes.
The Vatican wants Jerusalem sites. Look at that. They want the Garden of Gethsemane.
Right.
The Western Wall and the Temple Mount.
Right.
So, I mean, what's that all about?
Yeah, they have to, in order to create their line wonders.
So, and then,
they need control of these sites in order to bring in.
So then you can bring in
the Antichrist.
That false prophet.
Right.
And you can set them all up there.
Yeah.
Have the line wonders.
Yeah.
Create a little bit of peace.
Yeah, more line wonders.
Get everybody tricked.
Just like 9/11.
Get the mark.
More line
Get
wonders.
marked up.
Yeah. Okay. Where should we go next?
Do you know... we're always talking about there's tumult and there's trauma, but Lynn, is there hope? Come on. Isn't that what we're talking about now? Sure, there's hope, isn't it?
Of course there's hope.
Okay, so that's what it's all about, isn't it? So that's...
You're worried, eh?
No, I'm not worried at all. You think I'm worried?
I don't know.
No, but look, you've got... I think the popish persons are a little bit concerned because...
If you're earthy or carnal, there's not much hope.
Did you hear what Pope Benny said? He was talking about information overload. He's using kind of Marshall McLuhan.
Yes. This week.
He's becoming sort of a Marshall McLuhan Pope.
Yes. All of a sudden, he's using media terms.
Media scientist.
Science terms. And yet, McLuhan wrote in Understanding Media that Pope Pius XII was deeply concerned that there be serious study of the media. So... they don't want you to study the media because you may be able to wake up and be able to read the grammars of the media and understand, not get bamboozled.
Well, I thought he
and
was
not get brainwashed.
I kind of had a feeling he was a little bit concerned because he said, "Go sit down quietly and meditate." So he wanted everyone to sort of go to sleep. The Dalai Lama, he's always saying, sleep.
Yeah.
Do a lot of sleeping.
And
unfortunately, his partner, You know, his partner Heinrich
Oh, go
Herr,
to
he died, you know that. He passed away last year,
Yeah, and we
right?
have a whole
He must be
folder
very
on
sad.
the Dalai Lama, but we've included one picture from it here, and that is photo number 30, which shows the Dalai Lama with his spiritual advisor, an SS, Waffen SS. There's a great guy to have as your spiritual advisor, eh? One of Hitler's Waffen SS, one of the most cruelest, evilest men on the planet.
Terrible.
And Dalai Lama's got him as his spiritual
There's just something wrong here.
advisor.
Well-
not only was he a Waffen SS, he was a diehard Waffen SS, and he was in charge of the mobile killing
I just
units.
realized
What are
in
we
that-
laughing about? But
Look-
this shows how they can fool the world with these characters like the Dalai Lama.
Look what he's holding in his hand in that picture.
Yeah, what's he got?
He's got a chalice. See it? Heinrich?
Oh yes.
That's
Yes.
kind of creepy.
Yeah, that's the
ew.
that's the quest for the
Holy Grail?
For the Holy Grail.
In the Raiders movie,
Yeah,
right?
by the
and then
Nazis.
he goes and he picks the fancy one and drinks from it and dies.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You didn't
These
pick
are
the right
men.
one.
These are men who get
You have not chosen wisely.
yeah. Waffen SS men tend to get their enjoyment out of watching people suffer.
I know. It's
And
terrible.
it's interesting
Ew.
that the Dalai Lama should have this guy as his spiritual advisor.
listen.
Definitely not a man of
Okay,
peace.
let's put it this way.
Comes
Why-
as an age, there's
Why isn't the Dalai Lama in Tibet? He lives in France. He lives in these wonderful mansions all over the place, and he got Heinrich to write books about him, and they made millions and gazillions of dollars.
Yeah, and let's not
You
forget
know?
that the Secretary General of the UN, Kurt Waldheim, had to resign because it came out that he was Waffen SS. And Walter Dornberger, who was involved with a direct involvement in the Kennedy assassination, was found guilty at Nuremberg and sentenced to execution, but they didn't execute him because they didn't have their hands on him. He was protected by the Vatican rat line and taken to the United States and became vice president of Bell Helicopters.
Now that's creepy.
And Michael Payne worked for him, and Michael Payne and Ruth Payne got Oswald the job at the Texas School Book Depository. So, we let these Nuremberg criminals free thanks to the Vatican.
Exactly.
I mean, this is connect the dots, folks. This isn't a matter of opinion. We don't give our opinions here.
Do you remember?
These are court documents we talk from.
Do you remember Nebuchadnezzar's dream, right?
Yeah.
He saw a great statue of a man, and it was talking about the different empires when
Yeah.
they would rise and fall.
Yeah.
So if you go to photo 32, it talks about Babylonian Empire, which is the gold, the Medo-Persian Empire, which is the silver, which is the shoulders and the chest, Grecian Empire, which is the, I guess that would be the torso, right?
Yeah.
Roman Empire, the legs, and the Holy Roman Empire. I mean, is that the one that's rising again? I call it the unholy Roman Empire.
Yeah.
It's rising again, so...
That's the last world
Yeah.
man-made world kingdom prior to the return, the second coming.
And I think we also have to remember, and this is photo 36, it's the crowning of Charlemagne in 800 AD. Every single pope crowns the kings for over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So isn't that
Making them the world emperor.
the emperor?
So the leader of the world's
Yeah.
religion crowns the leader of the world government.
So they're conjoined on a certain level, right?
Yeah,
This is
the one man
joining of the
becomes head of the
religion
world
and the
government
political
and head of the world religion,
Yeah.
and then claims to be divine, the Caesar, and claims to be
So
God.
that's how they're going to do the Antichrist, right?
Right,
No, it's right there.
exactly,
It's right in your
exactly.
face. So that's
yeah.
photo 36.
Yeah.
So do you think in a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act
Yeah.
from George Orwell?
Yeah, it's a great
Do you
line.
think so? I love that one.
Oh, for sure.
So you know what, Nell? I like to be a traveler from the spirit land, and I think we're in the dawn of a new hope. I think that's where we're heading.
Oh, that's very
Do you like
good.
that? The dawn of a new hope. I like that a lot.
Now, Mrs. Steele,
Yeah.
maybe we should just flip into photo 48, which is we've got try organic food. I think it's important to realize that what they've done with the food is they have used genetically modified it genetically, and therefore they've taken all the nutrients out of the food. It's a pretty slick little devious diabolical trick of how to make people sick and have them starve to death, allow them to eat their way to starvation. So they fill their belly with food, but it's not real food because it has no nutrients because it's been genetically modified.
But it's also contaminated too.
It's contaminated too, but it's also genetic. So there's no.
Yeah.
So really, anybody who just eats food is not going to get any nutrients, and so you have a large, not a large, but you have a number of people who are waking up and are using vitamin supplements to make up for the fact that the food is no longer food.
So we need to really study the different vitamins and what they do for us to replenish the minerals and vitamins we're not getting from the non-food, right?
Right, but
the GMO food, right?
But most people will not do that. Most people will continue to believe that the food they're eating is nutritious, and eventually what it does is it just starves them to death. So it's sort of a diabolical. You can see it's definitely a plan cooked up by Lucifer, getting them to eat their way to starvation.
Okay, I'm thinking it's sort of
they eat their way to starvation.
Doesn't it sort of
brilliant?
It backfires on the ruling elite and the crown heads of Europe and everybody else that's in power because they've got to eat the same food. They think they've got it in that seed vault, the Svalbard seed vault. They think that they've got it all there and then they can grow their own food. They probably have places they do that, but you know what? It's going to catch up with them. They're going to end up eating that GMO food eventually, or maybe even now.
Now, we can skip over the 12 tribes of Israel. People can see that. That's identity, and we've talked about that a lot before. Then we've got I eat Monsanto corn there again.
I know.
Right in front of people's face, my Satan, Monsanto. I mean.
It's so obvious. Well, it's like Santa.
Yeah, Santa. Satan Claus, Santa Claus.
So.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what China's doing now?
What's China doing?
Well, China needs a lot of natural resources. So they've got their eyes on all these different countries and thinking, oh, you know, we've got to go there and just take it. It's ours. They're buying it in Australia. Any natural resource they want, if they purchase it, they can legitimately go into that country and just take it. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
So that's what China's doing right now. They've got the money.
Now, Mrs. Steele, do you have the... let's just check our time here. We've got about, 10 minutes? What do we got?
No,
what do we got?
technically speaking, we got 2 minutes.
Oh.
Not too sticky, so just go ahead.
Okay, so what... What did we... But we started late, right?
No,
All right. So we'll start slowly wrapping it up. Time moves on very quickly.
Look,
Time's moving forward.
all I know is that
They've speeded up time, that's for sure, haven't they?
Exactly. I mean,
Do you notice how they've speeded time up? We don't live a year in a year. We live a year in about a month.
if those days had not been limited, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be limited. In other words, you know, I could do it in another okay. And except those days should be shortened. There should be no flesh saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So the days are shortened. Time has speeded up. You know, Lenny, I think we're a lot younger than we think we are.
Yeah, I think we really are. Let's move right. You know, there's a couple of people should go on their own through some of these. There's a great line by Lenny Bruce: "Take away the right to say fuck, and you take away the right to say fuck the government."
I
right?
like that one.
I think they murdered him.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
They found him with, I think it was with a syringe in his arm and some heroin, and he was lying on the just after he had done a show.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably.
And let's see some of the other photos that just come to mind, which are really, really
Every
good to
day
go through.
people are staying away from the church and going back to God. That's Lenny Bruce again.
Oh, yeah, say that again. Every day people are staying
away from the church and going back to God.
Yes,
That's
yes. Very,
Lenny,
very
I
good.
said Lenny Bloom.
Yes.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a slip.
Take another 10.
Take another
Yeah?
10. We got another 10?
We-
All right, now what's this picture here you have?
What is it?
What's photo number,
I don't know where you are.
what's photo number 114?
Well, thanks
Is
a
that-
lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
here,
you know
this
what?
one. Who?
I think we ought to talk
Who's
about
that?
the clones.
Yeah.
That's a picture of Queen Victoria when she was young, and that's Andrew's daughter. I forget. There's two of them. I forget what her name is,
I
but
see.
they're identical.
Identical.
They're identical.
So they probably had Queen Victoria's blood, DNA, and they're reproducing and using it to keep the bloodlines pure.
We talked about the fact that all of the royalty have to come from these ancient bloodlines.
Yeah, Kate and William are really more than cousins, aren't they?
And do you remember the
was
series
the-
called Game of Thrones? And I started watching that, and that shows the incest. That actually shows that there's an incestuous thing going on with them. And I think they do actually save the blood or the genetics, the sperm, whatever.
Sure.
And they use it.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, Kate's a lot more connected than you think. You just
Right.
go and you can look it up on the
Right.
web. You'll
Kate
find it.
is not a commoner.
No.
She comes from a heavy
Yeah.
blue blood line.
On her mother's side, especially.
Yeah,
I
and
think.
they just keep it. They just change their bios
Oh, yeah.
and make the bio for Wikipedia what they want you to read. You're not finding out the real story.
There's a really good little one here. I like this one. It's photo 138.
Yeah.
It's Penn Jones,
Oh yes,
the Jim Garrison investigator. And you know who he's sitting with?
he's sitting with me.
In 1973, Lenny.
Yes, yes.
But you don't look like
Yeah,
you
I
look like you were born in 1973. There. Look
Yeah,
at you.
yeah.
Look. You
Well, that
hardly
was
aged
taken at
all.
the Toronto International Airport with Penn Jones, and he was the Penn Jones was the man who got Jim Garrison to go back into the reopen the investigation of the JFK assassination, and he was the original JFK and Garrison investigator, and was eventually years later was a consultant on the Oliver Stone film.
Did he write a book?
Yes, he wrote a number, namely "Forgive My Grief" 1 through 4. So that was the name of his books. Were "Forgive My Grief."
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great. That is. This is sort of where you started.
That's where
This is where you started your sort of. You
Trek.
realized, hey, what's going on here? There's something not right.
Yeah.
I've got to figure this out. And you were shocked, weren't you, Lenny? I mean,
Yes, I was
you were
shocked.
shocked.
I was shocked when I saw the picture of the shirt and jacket that JFK, an FBI picture, by the way, FBI evidence of the jacket and shirt that Kennedy was wearing that day, and it showed a hole in his jacket halfway down his back. And the official story from the Warren Commission is he was shot once in the head and once in the throat. I thought, oh, what about what made that hole in his back? And started to get into it and ask questions, and eventually went down to Dallas and met Penn Jones, and just at that time anybody who was interested in following it could become an investigator, and just keep in touch. I started to speak to Penn Jones about 3 times a week in the 70s, and go down to Dallas maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and go to the Lancer, JFK Lancer convention, and meet the people like the guys who took, I'll never forget meeting the guy who brought Kennedy's body at the autopsy in Bethesda out of the casket onto the table, the medical table at the hospital, and he told me that Kennedy's, or the brain in the body, just came out on in his hand. And being a medical student, he realized, and he could see immediately, this body's been sanitized, and this brain doesn't go with this skull. He could tell that, just as a medical student, because he had seen a lot of them, a lot of cadavers. And he was absolutely scared out of his wits, because there were admirals and generals looking around, and he wasn't going to say anything. He just kept his mouth shut.
So you've been connecting the dots for 40 years.
40 years.
And so how does it feel now that you've sort of have you're in a backstage seat in a gondola,
yeah,
in the theater. I want to call it the Celestial Theater, and you can see everything happening in advance. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's sort of it's quite a ride, because when I first started into the Kennedy assassination, I realized the government was lying. FBI and CIA were in on it. It was difficult to accept at first. But when you start to look through the court documents over the years, you start to realize there's no other explanation. The government's lying through its teeth. And then it had to be bigger than that. Jones knew that it was connected to the popish persons, and he, Kennedy was shot, as he used to say, within 40 yards of the sheriff's desk. The authorities were behind it as well, as what he was alluding to. So it's been fun. It's been interesting, and we've been batting 1,000. We'll just have to see where it leads.
Well, I think it's just great.
Yeah.
And I have actually had a lot of fun. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been great. And thank you so very much for, I've been on this, as a sojourner and an ambassador, and it's been great. It's been a little trek for me.
Yeah,
I'm learning a lot, and I'm certainly connecting the dots with you, and it's a lot of fun.
Before we sign off, which we will just in a few, let's just point out that this Sunday night on AM 740, Zoomer Radio, you are going to be making your first appearance on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Surrett. And I'll be there with you, and that'll be a blowtorch radio show. First time you'll have been on a blowtorch radio show.
I'm really excited.
So that'll be exciting. And people listening should tune in to that this Sunday night at 11 p.m.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And, I've sat in the studio with you and listened before, so this is going to be really exciting.
It will be.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mrs. Steele, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to go for the millionth time, the forge and the smithy of my soul, the uncreated conscience of my race, and watch for our website, bloomandsteele.com, and we'll be here again at the last Wednesday in the month of February, again at 8 p.m. It's been great being here with you. Look forward to seeing you again next month.
Read, watch, take heed.
But ask yourself, if we'd learned on November 22nd, 1963, that the premier of Russia had been shot from a Moscow office building by a lonely capitalist sympathizer who himself was then liquidated by a patriotic Muscovite within 48 hours while surrounded by armed police, I think it would be pretty apparent to any free-thinking person that a coup d'etat and a transfer of power had just taken place in the Soviet Union. And we would not be asking questions or attacking Jim Garrison or his record. We would, in a free-thinking society, be asking hard questions about why he was killed and what forces were opposed to him.